Hello there, my very good friends. Andy Murray here for WhatCulture Wrestling, coming through with a bit of exclusive news for you today. If you are part of the large group of people who look at the AEW Women's Division, look at the AEW Women's World Championship, and look at the person holding that belt and think, hey, they're not on television enough. They are not getting the featured week-to-week presentation on Dynamite and Rampage that they deserve. If you're part of that group, then you are not alone, my friends. In fact, your frustration is shared by the person at the very top of that pile. Thunder Rosa, we can exclusively report today, is upset with her television time in AEW. Now, we've learned this from close, unnamed sources with knowledge of the situation, and there are a bunch of different things that we need to dive into here, a bunch of different points to this story. So we're going to work through them now, and we're going to begin with this week's episode of Dynamite. Now, of course, Thunder Rosa wasn't featured on this show at all. She did not appear in any kind of capacity. This is despite wrestling Serena Deeb in a very well-received and very well-reviewed match at Double or Nothing. They had the Women's World Championship match. Thunder Rosa picked up the victory. It was received extremely well. It was a really, really strong match. And yet there was no mention of it, or the Women's World Championship at all on Dynamite. The way it was put to us, in fact, is that how this was handled, the follow-up or lack thereof on Dynamite, made it feel like the match didn't even happen. And there's some other stuff going through here as well. So part of the presentation, part of Thunder Rosa's presentation at Double or Nothing, she had the special ring gear, and she announced this ahead of the show. She mentioned that she's done media and she's spoken about this a fair bit. The Uvalde, obviously, the tragedy, the shooting that left 19 kids and 2 teachers dead the other week. 45 minutes away from San Antonio, which is where she's from. She's very involved in that community, and she devised her Double or Nothing gear to represent them, to represent the people hurt by that awful situation, of course. Now, she also announced that she's planning on auctioning that gear off to benefit the families of the victims and people impacted by that tragedy. Despite this, she was not invited to the media scrum after Double or Nothing, and it's gone unmentioned as well. So she's planning on auctioning that gear off. Now, given her ties to the local area, you can look at that and understand why she would feel upset about that situation. But there's lots of different elements to this story. That's one of them there. Certainly a more personal side of the story there. But there's lots of confusion here. There's some frustration. There's some upset to it. You can understand why if you put your feet in her shoes. I'm going to editorialize a bit now that we've got the facts of the story out of the way. Thunder Rosa upset with her television time in All Elite Wrestling. These are my thoughts from this part onwards. So let's just draw the quick line there. Look at the builds to Serena Deeb, to the Serena Deeb match in general. And as well received as that match was at the pay-per-view, the build was very lightweight. You didn't get much from Thunder Rosa at all. You got the odd minute-long promo here and there with Tony Schiavone on the ramp. She showed good fire in those, as she always does. But there wasn't a whole lot of content. There wasn't a lot of focus. It was very much, hey, here's the Women's World Championship. Oh, you blinked and you missed it, and it's gone. Deeb had a slightly longer segment, deeper into the program with Dustin Rhodes, and Thunder Rosa was involved in that. But again, she was only on camera for a very brief moment of time. She wrestled the match at the pay-per-view. We got there. But there certainly is a lack. There's a difference between the build's quality and the match's quality, I think it's fair to say. So if you were to sit here and pick apart and go, hey, she was on screen for this time and this time and this time in the build-up, I think it would be quite low, particularly for someone who's holding the AEW Women's World Championship. Now, this championship has come in for a bunch of criticism since, the division as a whole has, since AEW was launched. The lack of focus, the slot that the match is put in every single week, it's usually in like the second last quarter. It's referred to as the death slot sometimes because not a lot of focus goes into it, not a lot of spotlight is shone on that particular part of the show. And these criticisms that aren't going away, and it's understandable for me, and this is me editorializing again, as someone in Thunder Rosa's situation who's put a lot of work into her craft and puts a lot of effort into her performances and is an extremely skilled competitor, someone who's had countless great matches in this company and elsewhere. Yeah, you want to be focused on television. There was nothing from the AEW Women's World Championship scene this week whatsoever on Dynamite. We did get some stuff. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter against Ruby Soho and Toni Storm, of course. That was kind of a fallout from the Owen Hart Cup tournament. We got the angle with Jade, the baddies, Stokely Hathaway, Bina, and Chris Statlander was involved as well, Anna Jay. But nothing whatsoever from Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb, and the fallout of their match. So hey, that's the story. Let us know what you think down in the comments section below. Thunder Rosa unhappy with her television time in AEW. General levels of frustration here, some confusion like I said earlier. And all of that. Look, we're not in a situation where we're getting the impression that Thunder Rosa is going to walk out of AEW tomorrow, right? But there's clearly some upset going on here. That's the story. I've been Andy Murray. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can follow us on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. You can follow myself on Twitter at Andy H. Murray. And I'll see you soon.